coming up on Mic'd Up.
If you know how to do something, if you're an expert, you've achieved something, I want you to think about the steps you took to get there. Because every single person that's had success or achieved something should, in turn, return that to someone else and keep a cycle going. Because if that happens, then we'll create a bunch of unstoppable people to live in the life of their dreams.
Welcome to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DeCiocio, and on my show, I interview entrepreneurs, award-winning authors, entertainers, business leaders, athletes, and other talented individuals who I personally invited to join the show to inspire you to be brave and bold in pursuit of your dreams. If you dig this show and are looking for more inspiring content from incredible people, click the subscribe button and you'll be notified of each episode release. Subscribing is free and it means the world to me that you've chosen my channel to tune into. You can give a gift of thanks and appreciation for providing this content to you. Simply visit patreon.com/mikedup, MIKEDUP. Any amount is greatly appreciated and totally unexpected. I welcome you to connect with me on my other social channels as well. All links are clickable in the description to make it even easier to connect. Thank you again for tuning into Mic'd Up. Enjoy the show. Our guest today is the co-founder of the innovative tech platform Blooprinted. He is a performance coach, author, dynamic public speaker, tech visionary, and thought leader. He has been featured by Yahoo Finance as one of the top business leaders to follow in 2020, and he's on a mission to build unstoppable people. He is consumed with a passion to help people break free from the confines of complacency and propel to untapped levels of success. Welcome to the show, the powerhouse behind the What Are You Made Of podcast and the best-selling author of Rocket Fuel, Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco.
What's happening, Mike? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on to share with you and your audience, man. It's an honor. And I always want to make sure that that's very clear that I'm very gracious of opportunities, man.
Yeah, man. The gratitude is felt. And it's kind of funny and interesting that we haven't crossed paths yet. Like Mike DeCiocio meet Mike Ciorrocco. Like, how has that not happened yet? We're basically family, right? Paisans.
Yeah.
And now that you're a guest on Mic'd Up, you are family. I consider you family. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. And, I think that the fact that we think that it's weird that we haven't crossed paths yet is it's a small world in one aspect, but then also that, having an abundance mindset, understanding that there's 8 billion people on this planet. So, you know what I mean?
For sure. Guys, you could tune into Mike at Mike C-Roc, and it's spelled Mike, CROC.com. All of his social media is clickable in the show notes, making it super easy to connect. Let's dive right in. You ready?
Yeah, brother.
Imagine this. We're moving down the court, right? Little alley-oop up to you. We're driving down the court. And here's the scoop. A wise man once told me that there's 3 easy steps to follow to get whatever you want in life. We call them the 3 C's, and they're from C-Roc himself. Clarity, commitment, consistency. So talk to our audience for a second, and they're 25 to 40-year-old people looking to level up in their life. Drive those 3 C's home for them.
Yeah, look, I'm a big guy on steps to achieve things now, because I wasn't always my whole life. I would commit to something and I would just go figure it out as I would go. And that cost me a lot of time, money, energy, stress, relationships, you name it. And so now I'm looking always to not keep myself from moving until I have the steps, but always asking, what are the steps? What's the next step? How many steps are there? Because what I found out, Mike, was in my life, if I would have had the exact steps to achieve something, I could have been way further along. All the people around me could have been further along and impacted. And so I started developing these little steps, and then I also encourage other people to do that. And that's why we have the platform Blooprinted, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
First thing, man, you can't get what you want. You can't hit what you want. You can't even drive a car if you don't know where you're going. Right. And I know that sounds simple, but 95% of people, if you talk to them and ask them, like, what do you want out of life? What is your ideal life? They don't have an answer. Even my wife, God bless her, my wife, I ask her, like, look, I want to help you support your goals, your dreams. What do you want? Ideal life? Like, what is it? And she's like, I don't know. So now I'm working with my wife on this. I've been working with her on this because otherwise you're drifting and you're living someone else's clear vision. So that's the first C. And the second one is committing to it and deciding. Everything that we have right now and what we'll have in the future is all based on decisions we've made. And then the habits and behaviors that come after that. So we shape our lives by decisions. Now, most decisions might come from failures and the decision that we make right after that failure. That could be a disappointment. That could be a discouragement from other people. A lot of things can fall into that failure bucket, but we make a decision after that. It's like if you take a cell phone, right? And cell phones have operating systems, and they have this one main operating system. But then what happens when we download apps?
Right. It starts to get bogged down a little bit.
Yeah. That's the decisions that we're making after failures. And these apps come in, and then before you know it, your phone slows down. It doesn't work at all. It freezes up. And that's what happens in our lives. So clarity, commitment, and making a decision. Okay. And then consistent actions towards that clear vision, just to make it simple. Obviously, there's other steps of stepping into being and already being who you want to be and all that. But that keeps it simple for me. And I always remember that.
Well, I think simplicity works though, Mike, because if we get into some kind of really deep 300 level stuff, it's like very few people are going to be able to follow that. And that's not to say that people are dumb or anything. It's just everything in life that we do at a high level can be simplified, right? I mean, the greatest authors in the world write books like John Maxwell. And one of the things I took away from him in many interviews is that he always says he leaves the cookies on the first shelf. So everybody can get it. So people can use this information, they can obtain it, they can put it into practice, and they can master it. And that's exactly what I love about what you just said there is you're keeping it simple. So it's not this over complex thing. And I always think about like you talking about having clarity. This example has come up on the show so many times where it's like, if I had two people and I tried to get them to a destination, one person has an exact roadmap, turn by turn, right? They have it on their phone. They're going to get there fairly easily. The other person, you just told them it's a greenhouse in a corner street under the throughway or the highway above them. And they're just like, what are you talking about? They'll never get there, right? It'll take them years. So why would you take the path to go years when, like C-Roc just said, guys tuning in, you can have a very, very distinct game plan, and that's going to get you there. My father, he always said, you got to have a plan. I love that, brother. That's so well said.
Yeah. The other thing is that if I was driving down the road the other day, I think I was in Scottsdale when this was going on. And I was looking at all the architecture and all the buildings, and I'm like, wow, thinking about this in clarity, these buildings came from somebody's imagination. Like it came from a clear vision of something. And if they didn't do that, then we wouldn't have buildings. So like, if that's the case, then we should be designing our life the way we want it in our mind first, getting clear on it. And just pay attention to that and then see how powerful that is. And then just implement it into your life. Take the time to do it. By the way, the other thing, Mike, most people don't do it. Two is because one, they don't know how powerful it is. Two, they think that it's set in stone and they cannot change or adapt it as they go. So they're like, well, I'm not sure I want that. Or, commitments, like they don't want to commit to something because they think it can't change. And it's a living organism, man. Your visions and dreams are evolving. It's okay.
Yeah. And as you grow, you can do different things that weren't a step one process. Like when you get to step 8, then you're able to grow and try things on a different level, and it would make more sense. Like that's why you don't give people the instruction manual for page 68 on page 1. Something you just said, talking about the buildings, made me think we're going to get in a little philosophy here. Another beautiful analogy with buildings is that you need to build the foundation first. Those buildings, as beautiful as they could be designed in someone's mind, they don't stand soundly without building a foundation, which are those simple steps. Again, you have to have the ground floor. You got to have your stable, however it's built. Then you can add in the windows and the beautiful architecture and all that later.
Yeah, 100%. And it also comes down to your mission and calling and your core values, what you're going to stand for, because, learning at a lower gradient is important because people get lost if you start too high. But same thing with your foundation. You're building a foundation for learning and knowledge. But for yourself, when you have your clear vision, you got to understand what your non-negotiables are. You got to understand, you got to set all this out up front, because that way, when you go forward and you're making decisions towards that ideal life, and then consistency towards that with your thoughts, words, behaviors, and environment that you keep, you need to make decisions quick a lot of times. And the only way to make decisions quick is very clear, binary decisions, either towards or away, building or destroying. What allows you to do that is your foundation that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I know a lot of this is in your book that just came out, Rocket Fuel. Congrats on the success of the book, man. That is literally blowing up. Your hand is probably sore from all the book signings that you've been doing over the last few weeks. Can you give our audience a little inside scoop on some of the value that's packed in there? Just something you want to riff on there.
I came from a lot of brokenness, man, and I had to put that in the book. So not to play a victim or anything, but to get people to understand where I came up with this rocket fuel concept or law. John Maxwell's got his leadership laws. I created the rocket fuel law. And basically, when I was about 8 years old, first of all, I don't remember my parents ever together. And I did the every other weekend thing, the child support battles, the custody battles. Then you add step parents into the mix and other kids into the mix, and then chaos ensues. And when there's chaos and confusion, it's very difficult for success to happen. So what I noticed at a young age is that I had the ability to cause and create my future. Now, I wasn't really conscious to this. It was a subconscious thing. But once I realized this, then I started making decisions, controlling my destiny. Now, when I did that, give you an example, I moved in with my dad when I was 8 because my mom was moving on to her third marriage. And I want you guys to think about this in your life and what catalytic moments were like this in your life where you decided to make a decision, and you can see how it shapes your life. I moved in. My dad was on to a second marriage to my stepmom, and she didn't get along with my mom, of course, most of the time that happens, or my dad's side of the family. And so I still wanted relationships with those people. She didn't. It caused conflict. Abuse happened. And for 3 years, from 8 to 11, I was in an abusive situation. But I also realized once I saw my friends and their house and they had loving families, and like, you could have that too. And then again, here's the clear picture. I want that kind of family, right? So then I make a move and make a decision to take action to get out of this environment. And so I told my mom about what was going on with the abuse. She filed court papers. My dad got those court papers one day. I came home from school after waiting weeks for them to be delivered. And by the way, my dad, he was my hero. He had big, thick forearms and rough hands because he was a mason. He laid brick and block and concrete. And he was a hard worker. He had money, but he used to carry a wad of $100 bills in his pocket with a rubber band around it because us Italians don't carry wallets, right? So he used to show us the money all the time. And when I got those papers delivered to him and I came home from school one day, he sent me to my room and I just waited for my hero to come back and confront me. And I remember my mom telling me, you need to stick to your guns because people, when you believe in something, listen, when you make decisions and you're going to set out on a course of your clear vision, there's going to be people that hate on you, discourage you. Why are you doing that? Why are you working so hard? Why would you want to do that? You think you can do a podcast? You think you can write a book? What makes you think you can be that person, right? All these things are going to happen. My mom told me this when I was young, and she's not a perfect lady. We call her crazy mom. My kids, that's how they address her, crazy mom, in a loving and endearing way. But she was very good at imprinting things into me at a young age that I was going to be a leader, inspire people, and the fact that you need to stick to your guns. And so my dad confronted me about these papers, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to get into discussion about this. He said, yeah, it says you want to leave here. Yeah, I already made my mind up. He said, okay. So he takes the wad of $100 bills out. He peeled one off, crumpled it up, and he threw it at me. He said, you're going to need this then when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And this is in the book. I wrote some stories and little anecdotes about this because at that moment, a spark was lit in me that still hasn't been put out to this day. I don't use that as much, and I'll explain why in a second. But I took that moment right there and I stored it in my tank instead of my trunk. Most people store things like this in their trunk, and it slows them down and weighs them down. I put it in my tank. I convert it into rocket fuel. I become unstoppable. And if you do that with anything in life, you take the things that would normally slow you down, stop you, and you put it in your tank and convert it, whether it's a training session, motivation, anything, you become unstoppable. And so that moment did that for me. And I used that for probably 30 some years until.
How old were you at the time, man?
10, 11.
11. Yeah, that's what I thought you said. And I was like, did I hear him right? To have that kind of, let's call it what it is. I mean, that
catalytic moment.
Yeah. I mean, you had to have some thick skin to be able to go in there knowing that you were already being, sounds like physically harmed. And then to go in there and stand up to him, man, that takes a lot. And then at that age, to realize that things happen for you, not to you, that's something that's a very mature thought. I didn't get into that frame of mind until after my divorce in 2017. Kind of felt like the world was falling apart. And then I realized, okay, if I could turn this energy into how it's happening for me, right? Just like you did. And then you used it in front of you. I like how you said fuel instead of the trunk because it's holding you back opposed to launching you forward. Really, really great insight. Anyone tuning in right now, thank you for being with us. We don't know your life situations personally, but whatever it is that you may need to take something that really hurt you and flip it around and say, this can be my fuel, then you really become unstoppable like C-Roc here. And he's done it. And now he's hanging out with guys like Grant Cardone. I mean, he's at his 4th 10X Growth Con recently. I'm a huge fan of Grant, read all of his books. One of the first guys that changed the way I think about big picture things. So talk about Growth Con. How did that go?
Yeah. And by the way, when you're talking about that scenario, it's all in the story that we tell ourselves. Your reality is the story that you tell yourself. So you can make it whatever you want. And that's a key factor. If you're taking notes, you want to write that down. I can make it whatever I want. So GrowthCon, by the way, Grant wrote the forward for that book. There's a story behind that too. But I went to GrowthCon in 2019 after my stepfather passed away. George, he stepped in for my dad at my young age, and he was a great guy. But he passed away from a sudden heart attack in January of 2019, which led me on a journey to start looking for mentorship beyond what he taught me. And I ran into a guy. He said he was going to the GrowthCon. I ended up buying a ticket and heading down there. And I just witnessed energy, bigger think, stuff that I wanted to start doing because I felt like I realized at that moment that I was playing too small of a game in my life. I'd been making money in the mortgage space, the real estate space, kind of golfing 3 times a week, hanging out, living life, comfortable, complacent. And then when I look at it, I'm like, wait a minute. When you retire to Florida, which a lot of people do, and then they get the fellas golf, right? That's retirement. I'm not ready to retire. Like, what kind of crap is this, right? And I have a lot of potential, and I'm a huge being. If you haven't been able to tell already, I have a huge spirit and being inside of me, and I needed to do something bigger. So I was entertained by that GrowthCon, but I also was challenged by it and inspired by it, and realized all the people on the stage were people just like me, but probably not even as big of a being as I am. And here I was wasting all this potential. I thought that was unacceptable. So I set on a mission from that point on to share my story and start impacting people and create unstoppable people by anybody that I have access to touch. And from there, man, I just started developing relationships inside. I invested with Grant in his programs. I brought it home to my company. We started having success. I started sharing the success. I committed. This is the type of person I am. When I buy something, I commit to something. I say, look, I'm going to be a case study. I'm going to make those people look good because that validates my purchase, right?
Right. For sure. Why would you do anything less? Yeah, I love that mentality.
Yeah. Well, they buy stuff and then they want to complain it doesn't work and they want to blame the person they buy it from, right? So I started building relationships inside the organization. I became friends with Jared Glant. My wife and his wife became friends. We went to dinner, hung out. And then I just started saying, you know what? Look, I don't know what it's going to take or what it's going to be like, but I want to be in an environment with you guys because I think I can help the mission, the 10X mission. And I know you guys help me. So all the big things that they do, my thought process is I don't want to be involved in it. I want to push them, even as like I didn't have the success that Grant has, but why can't I be the catalytic part of it where it pushes it further? So I just get this weird thought in my head, and I say weird because most people don't think this way, where I could be a person that pushes them over the edge to something in a good way. So that went through my head and I just started operating that way, in which what that did was in my personal life, my business is it pulled them forward as well. Before you know it, I got into tech. Long story short, with a guy that has a tech company and wants to build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. I like that mission. That's big enough for me. So I jumped on board and I introduced Jared Yellen, who's my partner in that, to Grant and Jared Glant. And they decided to start the 10X incubator. And that's a short story and a long thing that went on.
No, I saw that. I did not know you were involved in that to that level, but I did see that 10X did create the incubator, and it's cool to now be talking to one of the people who put some rocket fuel into it, right?
Yeah.
Brother, what you just said there, and what I want our audience to take away there as well, is the fact that you are being a giver, right? And a lot of times we see someone on like a Grant Cardone level, or if you're an athlete and you're like in a sport right now, maybe you're a college athlete and you're trying to aspire to be first round draft pick and all this stuff, and you think that these people are untouchable. Dude, they're like you and I. They like when someone like yourself, Mike, comes up to them, and Grant probably got excited when you said, hey, I have an idea to help maybe launch this thing even further, because all day everybody else is trying to pull things away from Grant. They're all taking his information, taking his ideas. Take a picture with me, Grant, so I can put it on Instagram. You didn't care about that. You're like, man, how can we take this amazing thing and make it even better? And that had to feel so good for him to be like, oh, finally, someone who wants to collaborate.
Yeah, well, I did do that. I took pictures with him too, but I'll be honest. But
yeah, but that wasn't your end game. That was part of the ride.
Yeah, no, it's like, here's the thing though. He gets pitched all the time, or people try to pitch. He doesn't actually get pitched because sometimes you can't get to him. But he always says this line, like, if you want to do business with me, do business with me. So that's why I invested so much into his programs. First of all, they work. Second of all, I wanted to participate in things. I paid money. By the way, there's a licensee program that he has card-owned licensee. I paid $5,000 to be a part of that. And I had no intentions of being a card-owned licensee and like executing a business off of it. But I did it for access. I did it to contribute. And last year or this past GrowthCon, I didn't have to buy a ticket, but I bought 2 diamond tickets for my wife and I because I'm already in the organization. I'm in the incubator. But I decided that, you know what, I'm going to contribute because I look at this event where he's bringing all these celebrities. He's going to spend $8 million, whatever it is. To me, it's like a bunch of people getting together and they're all pitching in to have this event, right? So that's the way I look at it. But you have to set yourself up to be in a position to be able to set a meeting with someone like that. It doesn't just happen. It's like, hey, who is this guy? How committed is he? Does he show up all the time? Is he always here? Does he contribute? Yeah, I'll listen to him, right? But it's not something where you just see a guy like Grant Cardone, you're like become a fan or whatever the case is. And then you go to him and say, hey, I want to pitch him. I want to pitch him. I want to do business with him. How do I help him? Asking questions too. How do I help him? It's not like that. You got to figure that out on your own and then bring it to him.
Yeah, really, really well said. It all started here. It was an idea. Then it was led by your passion, and you had an idea and you drove with it. And I love that. And then you put yourself in position to have an opportunity. You didn't know if it was going to go well, but you gave yourself the chance, just like getting up to that plate and taking a good swing. And you did that, man. We're going to take a quick time out here. We'll be right back with C-Roc, guys, in 2 quick minutes. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. All right, we're back in action with Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco. You guys can connect with him again on social media. I have his website clickable in the show notes as well for you. So you talked a little bit about mini C-Roc, if you will, your 8 to 11-year-old self going through some tough times. If you could take us a little bit past that point, then once you started to change that, you saw the other families and you said, man, there is beauty in this world and I want that and I can get that if I just push through and remove myself from a bad situation. So think of like maybe the middle school years into the high school and you start to think about what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What were your dreams then? And share as much of the story and how you really built yourself into this great business person that you are today.
Well, I still think I'm on the way to being great. So that's one thing. But when I was younger, I played football. When I left my dad's house, I started playing the Pee-wee football, went into high school and all that, and wanted to be a football player. I just never grew tall enough or fast enough, but I played in college. And, you know, I was always a straight A student, didn't drink, didn't party in high school, was focused, man, laser focused. I wanted to either be, you know, a football player or a sports broadcaster or something like that. Right. And I got to college and I came from a smaller town. And when I got to college, there was a lot more girls and parties. And before you know it, and by the way, there were some moments in there where like, you know, I came from like a lot of broken people. My grandmother committed suicide right when I was going to college. the people in my life just weren't there, like, right. And I don't want to point the finger at those. It was on me, but I reacted to those things the wrong way. So I was trying to escape. I went and escaped chasing women, drinking, partying, drugs. And before you know it, I dropped out of college with a 4.0, stopped playing football, and started working in the bar and restaurant business, which was a bad thing if you're partying, because you go to the restaurants, sometimes you're drinking at the bar, then you go to after parties.
Yeah, you never escape the environment, right?
Right. It's a cash business. And, it just led me down the wrong road for a period of time. And there was a dark period, which I'll talk about in the book a little bit as well. But for about 5 to 6 years where I was just lost, man. And it got dark. And there'd be moments of time where I was by myself and I'd have this like moment of awakening, like, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing with myself? Like, how did I get here? And I realized I was in a pattern of behaviors of my family and the people that were around me, which I always thought, like, there's no way I'll ever do that. Right. Nobody ever takes their first drink or smokes their first joint or, does cocaine the first time and thinks it's going to turn into a lifestyle. It's just stupid, man.
But it's the door that opens. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't just open. It's like kicks in, man. It's just like, so I met my wife and she helped me. She didn't know she was helping me, but she helped me recommit myself to the life I wanted. Right. And so at a young age, I didn't really follow those passions that I thought. I was kind of like, I got to do what I got to do. So I got into in-home sales for a while. For 9 years, I did in-home sales, sharpen up the sales game, but it definitely wasn't what I wanted to do. And I was not living the life I wanted to live at that moment, which carried through into all areas of my life. When you do that, your relationships suffer. Luckily, I've stuck it out. Like, our marriage has been wonderful, ups and downs, but we're almost 20 years in now.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And it's not easy, man. It's a journey. And my wife had to put up with a lot of shit, But, like, now I'm living the life of my dreams. Like, I'm doing what I want to do and I cause and create the outcomes that I want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got a life partner there, 20 years. Kudos. Shout out to your wife, man. That's awesome. And the fact that you guys get each other. She was there for the tough years, putting up with some of the shenanigans that you had to go through and live. But now you guys can appreciate each other on a whole different level. And that's how you see people who stick together in a different situation. One of my favorite bands is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They just released a new album 2 days ago. And these guys, I just realized they got together 40 years ago. You want to talk about crazy party and drugs, the lifestyle, and 40 years. And it's not the 4 original members, but it's like the same 4 members from 40 years ago. It's incredible. Just incredible that these guys are still creating great music. And it's like a marriage. Not every moment is, the highlight reel, the Instagram post. Not everything is what you want to share with everybody that's tuning in, but it makes those moments of sticking together so much stronger and more meaningful that you guys have come together. And that's the same thing with like business partners. Like, you're in it for the good times, and sometimes there's those rougher moments. So I think that's really beautifully said.
Yeah. And it's all part of the story, right? Like, there's punctuation in stories. There's sentences and paragraphs, and so that's what you got to look at it, is every event that's going on is part of the story.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you only had these, every day was a beautiful, shiny blue sky, no clouds, the appreciation starts to go away. So I think unless you have an understanding of what something beautiful actually is, there's no perspective. And then you kind of lose that. That's a whole nother episode. We can go into some real deep thinking on that. We'll save it for another day. Here's what I love to do while I got you for a few more minutes here. Talk about 3 signs of a healthy business that will really have investors salivating. What are the 3 key things that a business needs?
Yeah, I think first of all, the founder of that business or whoever's running the show is a very important part of it. I'm actually taking a course at the Wharton School right now on how to build a unicorn. It's a 6-week course, 6 hours a week. Some of you may have seen the advertisements on social media, but I'm in 2 tech startups right now and involved with Project 10K, which is launching 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. And I cannot afford to be insecure and not know something, right? So the founder is an imperative part. Now, and you got to look at that founder, like, what have they done in their life and what are they committed to doing and what are they willing to do? Right. So I think that's the first thing. The question exactly was this for investors or?
Yeah. Like, what are 3 signs of a healthy business? Something that would make an investor like salivate over a business if they have these 3 elements.
So it depends on whether it's a startup or something that's already existing. If it's already existing, you're looking at track record of the business. If it's a startup, you're looking at track record of the founder. So I would say the founder, track record, whether it's an existing business or a startup. And then what is the problem that they're solving? Like, there's so much. It's more than three. Shit. What problem are they solving? What's their differentiating factor? What differentiates them in the market? And then the other thing is that the culture that's developed and established in that business. Like, what kind of culture do they have? Are the employees liking to go to work, or are they not liking to go to work? Are they the type that, are willing to pick up the ball and run with it if it's dropped, or do they point fingers and complain at people? Like, what kind of culture and core values are established in this company? When you're going to a company, whether you're looking to buy it or invest in it or work with it, like, a great thing to do is just interview employees. Like, don't talk just the founder. Go to the people that are on the lower levels. See if they know the core values of the company by heart. My companies, my people know the core values. You ask them, they'll be able to tell you exactly what all 5 core values are at a drop of a dime, because we made sure of that, because that's what we use to discuss things in our company. If we have a conversation, it's all done through the core values, and we hire and fire via the core values.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. It's like what we talked about early, Mike. We talked about those real simplistic. It doesn't have to be 3, but I just wanted to kind of make sure we didn't go too far down on that. But there's some really core values, some really simplistic things that you can follow, right? The foundational elements. And I think it is really important for everybody on the team to understand. That's the same thing I do here at Social Chameleon. And it's a podcast agency that I built a few years back. When I bring someone on or even prospect them, it's like, I want to see their interest level and what we're doing as a mission. And if something already feels off, it's kind of like on a date. If something just core value is way out of whack, that's an alarm. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, it's going off. So that's really important that you guys are all moving in the same direction. There's a lot of force and power behind that. I think that's really well said as well. Here's what we teased a little bit at the top of the show: Blueprint. Blooprinted is the business. BLOO printed, all one word. I saw this on your website. The quote was, "Nobody likes to sit through an online course." I think we can all laugh. And over the last couple of years, the pandemic, everybody's been online. So I agree with you on that. Can you give us a scoop on Blooprinted and how that actually takes that whole concept of task-based learning and really runs with it?
Yeah. So I've built courses, I've taken courses, and I also have a lot of friends that do courses. Right. And I've noticed something that, first of all, most people don't complete a course. I think the numbers, you can argue what the number is, whether it's 83% of people don't complete. I've even seen numbers that only 3% of people complete courses. And so there's a problem. And what is the problem? Well, I know when I'm watching a course, I'm looking for the speed up button on the video. I can't sit at normal speed and watch a video. I need to speed it up. YouTube videos, I speed them up. Time is valuable to me. So I can't sit through a course and where's the cliff notes, man? Tell me what to do. I don't want to sit here and consume. I want to do. I want to take action. In most courses, you're not taking action. So I started thinking about this, and I looked at my life, and I mentioned earlier, what if I had the exact steps to achieve things in my life? If I wanted to start a podcast, what if I had somebody telling me a checklist and exactly steps to follow? And then when I'm done, I know that I have a podcast. If I want to develop a personal brand, what's the best way to start? Where do I start? How many steps are there? So, because a lot of people, Mike, what they do is they don't know, they're worried about if they start on step 4 of something and they miss something, so they don't even start at all. So I wanted to provide a platform, a marketplace where creators and experts can come in, coaches, consultants, trainers, advisors, and they could provide the exact steps so that somebody could follow in their footsteps of exactly how they accomplish something. And all different categories, from travel, relationships, business, whatever it is. How did you do it? What were the steps so that I can do it? And that's what we did with Blooprinted. We created a marketplace of step-by-step processes in all different categories.
Dude, I think that's awesome. It reminds me, we talked about this whole roadmap idea, and I keep thinking of my iPhone with the maps up. They don't tell you what the road looks like or how many trees are on the side of the road, all those little things, like you said. Just get me through all that. I need to know, okay, 100 feet, make a right turn, 2 miles, make a left turn onto this on-ramp, right? We need those important details to learn and to actually get to where our desired result is. We don't need all the little things all the time. Sometimes if it is valuable, we certainly do need it. But I think that's really a beautiful thing, is you're helping the entrepreneurial mind who doesn't have all day to just sit in front of their computer or desire to do that anyway, even if they did have the time. You're giving it to them in a clean, concise way. They can learn, they can go back, they can relearn. Beautiful. And then the idea of Blueprint, I love it because there's so many different things you can learn. You name it, you can learn it on that system. And it's really, really cool. That's awesome, brother. Congrats on that.
Thank you very much. I don't want to talk about learning a lot because You can learn on the fly. I want to get results. I want to accomplish something. I want success, and I'll learn as I go. I don't want to learn first and then never take action and never get success or results. Most people are chasing results all the time, right? My coach just told me this the other day. He's like, dude, stop chasing results. You create results, but you can't create results without action. And so that's what this is all about. I actually am blown away by the fact that some of these course platforms have done so well at the expense of people not getting results and getting better and being successful, which is crazy to me. So that's why we stand against that.
Yeah, you need a blueprint, but you have to do the action. It sounds like it's silly to say it, but it isn't silly because you just said that like 90% of people, they buy the book, they don't even read it. And then if they read it, they don't do the things that it says to do in the book to course correct in their own life. So that's really so true. And so blueprint is a way for people to learn, but take the action. And action's a word that Grant Cardone, I hear his voice in the back of my head, take action, baby, 10X.
Massive action, right? What about this though? Like, what about the fact that there's an accountability factor too? Even with courses, like we're putting innovative features inside of Blooprinted that's going to make people wake up. Like if you bought a book, bought Rocket Fuel and you bought it and it was just sitting there on a shelf and you don't pass that shelf every day and it's just sitting there on a shelf, you're not going to remember to read it. But what if I took that book and every time you woke up, I put it right up in your face? You wanted to read it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Every time at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's in your face. What if we could do that? Do you think people would do more?
Absolutely. You know, I just thought of an idea. I'll give this to you. You could do something with it if you want. But when you buy a book, to actually have like an app that comes with it that asks you kind of like questions, like you go through it almost like Grant has the blank pages that you can write in. And I always do that, but like a digital version of it. And then it asks you kind of like, you get quizzed basically to make sure you're going through the damn book. And if you don't, it's going to keep popping up. Reminder, you're 2 chapters behind. Like you're committed to yourself that you'd have this done by 4/1 and you're still on chapter 1 and you should be in chapter 2. That's a cool idea.
And then some people, the critics will say, well, that could be annoying. Well, goddamn right, it should be annoying. Like we're not trying to be nice. I'm not worried about like not pissing people off. I want to get results for people. So cut the shit.
Yeah. You know what's annoying? It's 2 years. You're still in the same boat you were 2 years ago. That's what's annoying.
Yeah. Cut the shit, man. I don't want to hear that stuff. I'm not worried about developing a product, a tech platform that's not going to piss somebody off or annoy people because we want results. And if we're going to really stand for results and take responsibility for results, then we need to do what we got to do it, despite somebody getting upset or what have you.
Yeah. That's a mic drop moment right there. I love it, brother. Here's the deal. You wrote Rocket Fuel, so you are an author. I want you to use your imagination here for a moment. You're the author and protagonist in your own life story. So you get to write the ending, and God willing, you continue to live a long and prosperous life. You're looking back on it and you get to write the ending. You get to define your legacy. What would that be?
Well, first of all, like if I die, I want people to say that, dude, every time I got around C-Roc, I just felt unstoppable. Like I got this feeling that I could do anything. That's the calling that I have, is to create unstoppable people. All people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. So I want that feeling that resonates through that. But, as far as accomplishments and things like that, I want to continue on what we're doing with the tech, have tech exits, and then take the money from that and be able to use it to better this planet. I'm not okay with just buying boats and planes and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I want money for. I want money for the church down the street here. They want to do this big gym where they can do indoor soccer, lacrosse, and bring people from all over the country and the world, actually, because a lot of people come to this resort town in Ocean City, and bring them there for sports, but then also help them become better and create a better life. And they're looking for 9, 10 million, whatever it is. I would love nothing more than just to write that check, give it to them. Don't tell anybody I gave it to you, and then have that accomplished. So those are the kind of things that I'm set off to do. Along with, I just had this thing recently come up that I want to be a movie star. And, I'm 40 some years old. And, I'm like, well, a friend of mine on Clubhouse, Bobby Del Rio, is an actor and producer and screenwriter. And I said, Bobby, first of all, wouldn't it be a great story that somebody was in their 40s, decided, remember, everything's based on decisions, decided to be a movie star and went and did it. And then that story could inspire people. And, from there also, so I just started taking action, man. I start thinking about it. My words start speaking it. I start doing actions, and my environment starts to support that decision. And now I'm taking acting lessons, and I'm looking for opportunities to start acting. I don't know where that came from, by the way. It just came, and I'm not going to negotiate with something that comes into my mind.
Yeah, dude, you can't control like what comes into your heart, and there's this heart tug. Did you say you're Ocean City, New Jersey area? Awesome, brother.
Maryland.
Okay,
Yeah,
Maryland.
yeah.
All right, cool. Man, that is incredible. And it's funny, I've actually had a little bit of that as well. That same kind of dream. I went to school for media production, just to give you a little backstory of me for half a second. And I always was behind the camera. I love doing that, but I do see myself actually doing a great job on camera as well. And that's something that I will be mindful of as well. And so you're inspiring me just thinking about it. I think that's beautiful, brother. Like, yeah, you don't have to be the 18-year-old actor, actress who goes out to LA on $100 and, rubs the right elbows and gets into it. There's people who look like you that are in a screenplay right now that you're the perfect person to play that role.
And what about this? What about the relationships that in podcasting, people don't realize the relationships that we've developed? I don't know. What episode are you on, by the way?
I just had episode 127 come out Monday.
Yeah. So anytime you go past 50 to 75 episodes, I would say, and you're serious about it, you start to see something transform in your life, and relationships that you get from this, and the confidence that you get from this, and the credibility you get from this. It's amazing. So then what happens is that you have access to people that you normally wouldn't if you were a starting out actor or struggling actor, to try to get in front of people or get somebody to know who you are. For us, if somebody Googles our name, they're going to see we're legit, like we're, established. And so that helps big time. And then you start working on the craft and start speaking into it and acting, like I said, and keeping your environment surrounded and supporting it. It'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, I just talked to somebody the other day. I interviewed her a while back. Her kind of nickname is Mother Martha. She has this crazy survival story of coming from abuse, and she escaped out to Uganda and ended up she's like a celebrity type figure helping that country. And they actually helped her survive. It's this really interesting story. I'm like, I want to get into directing just to direct that movie. But that is an Oscar nod movie. And there's so much more to it, but I'll just, for the sake of brevity, that's kind of the teaser on it. With the last couple minutes, I know you got to fly, and I really appreciate you being here, brother. I always say this, the BG on my shirt, be great and be grateful. And you started the show and said, I'm grateful to be with you today, and I'm grateful for everything you just gave us. How do you like to wrap this up and put a big bow on this thing?
Yeah, I want to encourage everyone that, if you know how to do something, if you're an expert, you've achieved something, I want you to think about the steps you took to get there. Because every single person that's had success or achieved something should, in turn, return that to someone else and keep a cycle going. Because if that happens, then we'll create a bunch of unstoppable people to live in the life of their dreams. And that's what we're doing with Blooprinted. If anybody's interested in that, please reach out to me. But you can go to blooprinted.com, or you can DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn and let me know you're interested in being a creator on Blooprinted. Because we can't really have a marketplace, Mike, until we fill it with creators, and which we're doing now. But we need to get thousands of people in here creating step-by-step processes.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look into that and feed into the podcasting side of it with you. That would be fantastic. I just had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Bill Dorfman, he's responsible for those bright, shiny celebrity smiles out in Beverly Hills and Hollywood. And one of the things he said, and you just hit on it earlier, and it's like this really articulates it, is you learn, you earn, and you return. You're doing that, brother. Like, the building that sports complex in the church, that's part of your legacy. That's things like that. That's an idea. But yeah, you've learned, but now you've taken action. So you're earning through your actions. And now you're kind of in the return phase, which is beautiful.
Oh, I'm still in the earning and learning. Trust me. I'm still in that phase too. I don't think that's ever going to stop, but then definitely giving back.
Yeah. Unless you go like this, oh shit, there's no pulse. All right. Then C-Roc is done. But until then, this dude, yeah, you're a firecracker. I just want to encourage everyone who's tuning in. Thank you for being here all the way to the end, number one. Number two, check out C-Roc on Instagram. He is just like lighting it up. A lot of my questions came from his Instagram because I was just researching all the stuff you're involved with, and you're really incredible. So I just want to thank you again for being here. You got a friend here, and whenever I'm in your neck of the woods, I'll give you a call and we can get together.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you so much for having me, man.
Thank you.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MikeDiCioccio. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.